So I'm testing out my OCV on my bank 1 that generates the P1349 code. Now, one of the first troubleshooting items you do is you check to make sure that this is that the OCV is actually engaging, and yes, it is. Not only was the old one, but then the new one here is also engaging. So it's actually clicking, click, click, click. So I started up the car, and you're supposed to engage it manually. So I'm manually engaging with a 12-volt DC box here, and the engine's supposed to bog down. Now, when I first started up the car, it was cold and everything else. I did that, and I did it probably a dozen times, and every single time it bogged down, bogged down, bogged down. So then I went for a test drive, and I got that P1349 code. I came back, and now I'm going to energize it again. And it's not bogging down. So, one of the things it says in the service menu, which this is cut off, if it returns to normal, so that foreign objects are ejected. I can't read the rest of it. There is also no problem since the foreign object is in the engine oil. So, if it worked before, if it would bog down everything before, and now it's not bogging down, I'm thinking that there's crap in there again. So I'll have to disassemble this all together, all apart again. And of course, as you can see, it's running, so the engine's nice and toasty. So I'll have to wait for this to cool down. Alright, I've taken the left bank VVT actuator off again. And I'm putting it back on. I'm ready to put it back on. And so again, the marks from the bottom are lining up. And then this is the best I could do. I've triple checked it with the photos and everything. This is 100% clean. There was a little bit of grit in here, but not much. It was fairly clean. And then this is looking really clean too. Yes, there's some crap in the back, but that shouldn't affect it. Now, I've blown into here. The air comes out of the OCV port very nicely. And these two holes here on the outside, I've blown through them. And they come through those holes right there on the side there. So, how I think this works is when the OCV valve opens, it pumps the fluid, the oil, into here. And it comes out of this hole here and presses on everything to make it move. And then when it stops, the spring pushes it back, and then those holes there. I think there's some sort of an internal to the camshaft drain back to the main area, because there is no drain hole inside that cavity, inside anywhere inside here. So this is the only way I can figure out how this works. But if it's my thought process is that it's all gummed up. This is what I'm thinking. So again, I started the car this morning and I applied voltage to the OCV and the car bogged down. I did it a dozen times to exercise that, but the engine was cool, just started up. So then I took it for a test ride, and sure enough, it started acting up again. So either one, this is binding up again with some crap, which I just cleaned living bejesus out of it, so it should be clean. Or two, the oil is pumping in and doing what it's supposed to, but then it is not being able to drain out. So then the pressure remains in, therefore the cam remains in the advanced setting, which would explain all the funky noises and everything at lower engine RPM. So that's what I'm thinking, but I've blown through there, and I don't have a diagram. I don't have any understanding of how this works, so it's just kind of trying to figure it out the way when I go. So I'll keep going at it. All right, here we go once again. Car's all put back together again. I cleaned up the VVT really good. So I'm gonna start it up and see how many crazy error codes we get this time. So we'll see if this worked. Oh, come on, focus. So I've got a check engine light, which doesn't surprise me from all the stuff that I had torn apart. So I'll hook up my scan tool here and see what that'll tell me. Already, I don't like the way it's sounding. I don't even know what that is. I gotta run through the entire thing again. Okay. Oil control valve circuit, I don't know. Alright, so system status. I'm going to do an all module scan. And it's going to take 20 minutes. So let's see how the engine looks. Running quiet. Not making crazy noises, not spitting out any fluids. I want to do the test on the OCD to see if that works. So I'm going to let the test run, and then I'm going to hook up my jumper cables to the OCD again for the left bank. Make sure it does bog down, and then the cover after that. And then I'll take it for a test drive. It'll warm up, and then it'll fail again. So why would it work when it's cold, but not work when it gets warm? I don't know. Alright, my OBD2 reader is almost done. And what is it saying? So it's saying P1656 to engine cool temperature circuit, whatever that is. Alright, so I'm just going to erase everything and then start all over and see what happens. So my check engine light should go off any second now. Yay. Alright, so this is running again. So we'll see what this does. Okay, showing zero engine problems. All right, so now I'm going to set it all up and do the tests. Hold on. All right, so I disconnected the OCV in the left bank. I'm going to apply 12 volts direct power. It's going to engage the OCV, and it should activate the VVT and bog down. And nothing. Wow. Nothing. Oh, wait. There it goes. Okay. Let's hook back up again. That's at the bog down again. All right, so it's not working as fast as it was before, but it is working. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clear the code, because obviously I just got a code for unplugging that. And then I'm going to take it for another test drive and see how it feels again. And after this, I don't know what to do. I just don't. So I'll check back with you in a few minutes. All right, back to the VVT stuff. I'm still having issues with this. I do not know what the problem is, and I'm going to keep digging deeper. But to eliminate one issue that has been bugging me is originally it showed the left VVT solenoid, the OCV, was failed. So of course, there it is. I've replaced it with a new one, and same with down in there, a new one there. But these are aftermarket. These, however, are genuine Toyota. So I feel more comfortable putting these back in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to test these two and make sure that they are working. I'm going to show it on camera. And then I'm going to take, when I disassemble everything, I'm going to do this in steps. So I'm going to take the old ones out. I'm going to put the new one, I'm going to take the new ones out, put the old ones back in. And then I'm going to start the engine. And what I've been seeing is that when the engine is cold, the VVTs will actuate, the OCVs will actuate the VVT, and it'll work. You can hear it clicking, and you can hear the engine bogging down as the timing is advanced and retarded. I'm going to do both sides, so the right bank and the left bank. But then when the engine warms up, it does not do it. It does not work again. So I'm going to rule out that it's the new OCV solenoid that could be failing during higher temperatures. I seriously doubt it. It's a long shot. The problem came up getting the P1349. It came up, and I put the new one in, and it's still there. I've cleaned the VVT. It's still there. I've taken the #1 cap off, cleaned all that, cleaned the filter in there. It's still there. I've blown out all the passageways. The code is still there. So, but I want to do this systematically, so I want to make sure that this is working on both sides as it should when it's running cold and hot. And then from there, I can feel confident going forward. I don't think it's any other kind of electrical issues, because I'm giving electricity directly from my electrical generator here to the OCV, and it's directly triggering it. So if it's directly triggering it and it's working, everything should be fine. But if it's directly triggering it and it's not working, obviously it's a direct correlation between here and here. Now this opens up oil passes in and pushes on the spring that's internal, and advances and retards the timing of the intake camshaft. If that's working and allowing oil to pass through, one, the oil is not strong enough to pass through, i.e. there's a bleed somewhere or there's a clog somewhere. Or two, it is going in, but there's a clog somewhere else where it's not allowing it to bleed back out to allow the VVT to return back to its natural state at lower RPMs. It could be the VVT itself. It could actually be the VVT, even though I've cleaned the bejesus out of it. It could be it. So the idea is I'm going to take the VVT. I gotta take all apart again and again and again, but I'm gonna take them, and they are the same part for both sides, the left and right. So I'm actually gonna switch them. So if the problem goes from this bank to that bank, then I am satisfied it is truly the VVT. I can't clean it, I can't fix it, it's just the way it is. So I'll go order a new one, and they're after tax and shipping right around $200 each. If, however, I switch them and the problem remains over here, then it's then it's something from here into here and back out. It's a tremendous amount of work, but it's better than going and spending $200 per VVT and just slapping it and then finding out, oh crap, it doesn't work. But I've cleaned this. I've got maybe 2,500 miles on this car since I bought it at 191,000. And I flushed the engine twice. I guess got brand new oil in there. Yes, it's extremely dirty inside the engine, but it's not enough to do all this. So let the fun begin. So step one, verifying the old ones work. All right, got the connectors hooked up to it, and I'm gonna be tapping it here. See if I get both in there. Looks like it's working to me. Okay, so now the right side. And the right side. Now I want to point out also that, so we have the connections the way it is now. So you see this is positive and then negatives over here. Then positive here and negative over here. You saw it actuate. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch polarity. And it should still work exactly the same. See, it goes up, activated it's up, non-activated it's down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Switch polarity again, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. All this doing is in the coil, it's creating a magnetic field. And so whether the magnetic's north to south or south to north, it is still generating a magnetic field, which is going to repel the ferrous metal of the actual shaft inside there to make it pop out. So, but just for if anyone else is trying to troubleshoot this, swapping the wires, if you think, oh, maybe I screwed up and switched the wires, like here on the plug, I had to replace the plug. So I had to take both wires out, put the new plug in, put the wires back in. Well, what if I screwed it up and put it the other way? It doesn't matter. From a solenoid point of view, it does not matter. All right, so step one is confirmed. So step two is going to be to start tearing apart everything and verify, well, I should say, starting up the engine, verifying it runs, it does what it's supposed to cold and does what it's supposed to at warm. I know it works fine cold, and so far I've seen it not working right warm. So that's where we're at. All right, now we're getting ready to start it up and check the valves on each side. All right, go ahead and start it. engine started, smooth. Now I'm going to do the OCV on this side, see if it bogs down. Yep, see, that's bogging down. That's working. So now we're going to go on to the other side and try it again over here. Make sure this side's working. All right, now it's on the right bank. Oh yeah. And interesting to note, that's actually a harder. It dies much worse than the other side, just a worthy note. But as far as I'm concerned, at cold, this is working properly, working as advertised, working per the actual Lexus manual that I printed out, and it's saying to do that. So it says when the OCV is off, normal engine, and then when the OCV is on, it'll run for stall. We just saw that. But the only thing is it says when the engine is warmed up. And it does not work when it's warmed up. So now I'm going to let the engine just keep running, and it's going to warm up, and then we're going to test it again. Be back in a few minutes. Alright, engine is up to normal operating temperature, and now we're going to try again to activate the OCV to drag down the VVT. On the left bank. Nothing. It is not activated. So now we're going to try it on the other side. This will be the telltale sign if they both do it. And this one is not doing it on this side too. Is that supposed? Oh, okay, it's dying. It was dying. Well, yeah, it's dying. It is changing a little bit. Hear it chugging. Yep. Okay, so that was engaging. Maybe I just didn't leave it hooked up long enough over here. So I'll hook it up again over here. And we'll try it again, see if it bogs out. I'll hold it down longer this time. Actually, I'll clip it and just watch. I'll get this to work. It is hooked up. It is not bogging down. So it's interesting that it bogs down right away when the engine is cold, but it does not. It bogs down much slower when the engine is warm. Is it because the oil is thicker when it's cold? It works better. I don't know. But this is not bogging down on the left bank at all. So either the VVT is bad, or the passageway from the solenoid to the VVT is got a problem, compromised, or the drain going back out is compromised. So that confirms everything I needed to see. Now I'm going to let this cool down, and I'm going to take it all apart, and I'm going to swap the VVTs. I'm going to put the left bank on the right bank on the left. And if the problem follows over to the right bank, well, then I need a new VVT, even though I thought I cleaned it up really good. Maybe there's something I'm missing, I don't know. If it does not, then we got something internally going on with over here. Maybe the number one cap, camshaft cap is too worn down and the oil pressure is bleeding out. I don't know. Just guessing now. We'll find out. All right, we got everything put back together again. And again, only thing we did is we took everything apart, all of it apart, just to switch the VVTs from one side to another. That's all we did. We didn't find anything else. We didn't do anything else. This is strictly a test to see if the failure switches from bank 1 to bank 2. If it switches from bank 1 to bank 2, it's a VVT fault. If it does not and it stays in bank 1, then there's something internal to the actual engine itself, whether it be the cam cap, the drain. There's supposedly a oil check valve that I don't know where it is. I gotta try to find it. So right now we're just trying to see what happens with this. So stand by. Okay, started right up. A few little noises. It's not too happy, but it's cold. So it probably needs to warm up a little bit and relearn or whatever. But it is back up and running. So we will see what happens, let it warm up, and then do some testing. All right, the engine is all warmed up, and we're going to now test the number 1 bank with the number 2 VVT on it to see if it bogs down at operating temperature. Would not do that last time. It is not doing it. It is not bogging down. So to me, that means there's something wrong with the left bank. And it's not the VVT module. All right, so now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna turn off the camera here real quick and switch everything and do the right bank and see if the right bank goes down again. Okay, now we've switched over to the right bank. We're gonna see if it bogs down on the right bank. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, bogging down now. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take it for a quick test drive and see what this looks like. See if I get what code I get, and then we'll report back. All right, back here again. So this is what we're going to do this time. I am thinking that the problem now is the cap, the number 1 cap. The tolerances are too great. If you look at the previous videos, and I'll show you when I pull it off here, the bearing surface is pretty badly worn. So what I'm thinking is when the OCV energizes the oil to be pumped into here instead of going that way, the tolerances are too loose, so the oil gets pumped back in this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this apart. And by the way, the camshaft position sensor that normally sits right down there has come out. I was going to take that out and check that. It came out in 2 pieces, so that's always nice. And the main reason I was checking that is, if you can see in there, every time I start it up, this fills with oil. So I think that this was cracked somewhere. Well, now it's trash either way. I think it was cracked and oil was seeping in there. So I bought 2 new ones of those as well. So that's going to be done today as well. But, so I'm going to take the actual valve cover off, take the number 1 bearing, camshaft bearing cap off, and I'm going to stick a plastic gauge on it, put it back in, torque it back in, and measure the thickness of it. So I've got my little cheat sheets here. So here's the torque of all of these, as well as the oil clearance for the camshaft should be this here. So I'll make sure I'm within this range. But that either way is just for my peace of mind to see if this is the case. But what I have done is I've gone and bought 2 used #1 cap bearings. Bearing caps, whatever I call it. I bought 2 new ones of these. Not new, used from a junkyard. They looked pretty good on the photos online. And so I'm going to install those into this thing and then put it all back together again and fire it back up. So taking all this off, I'm going to pull the gear off a little bit from the timing belt and replace that. Take that cap off, measure it, put it back on, take it back off, measure the plastic gauge, then put the new one on there, the new used one, and then of course take care of that cam timing, the camshaft position sensor, replace what's left of that. Then from there, I'm going to put it back together again, and I'm going to start it up and see if this fixes the problem. If it does fix the problem, I bought both sides, so I'll come back over here and I'll do this side as well. So that's where we're at. Let's get started. All right, we got the cap off. So what I'm looking at here is this piece here. All 3 of these. Now this here, it's ugly, but it's actually supposed to be there. That little notch is supposed to be there. Not supposed to be this ugly, but it is supposed to be there. And you can see some pretty bad wearing right here, and all of this with here, and everything here, and then the sharp edges on these sides. So I think that's worn down. Now looking here, what I think is the oil comes out of here into this whole thing we just looked at, that #1 cap. And if it's if the VVT is not engaging, the oil dumps back out this way over all of this. If it is engaging, it dumps into here, which goes down to the center of this and comes out here on this side here and pressurizes in here, which forces that gear backwards, which then changes the timing for here. What I think is that this tolerance here is too sloppy, so that this oil pressure goes somewhere else. This is the only thing I can think of. Now you see you've got like a thrust washer here, and likewise over here, so there's not really any place for this oil to go unless there's a drain on the other side or something. But this filter was clogged. So I think it was clogging, which ran this kind of dry, which destroyed that whole #1 cap. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and put a plastic gauge across here, torque this back down, pull it out, and then measure that plastic gauge and see how far out of whack I am. All right, so camshaft oil clearance 0012 to 0026, and 0039 is the max. So I'm using 025 and 051. Now, correction, that is in millimeters, 0.030. 030 to 066 millimeters. And 099 is the biggest. So 030 is in this range, and 051 is a little bit higher, but 066 is the higher edge. So what I did is I took a little piece of each one of them. There's a red one and a green one. And so now I'm gonna go ahead and put the #1 bearing cap back on, and it will crush that red and green stripes on these 3 areas. And how much it crushes it, I'll measure it here and it'll give me the actual thickness. So let's check it out. Okay, here we go. So what we have is it's crushed. Now you'll see, let's see if I can get this right here. This is open to allow the oil to go in. So that thickness does not matter. This is the bearing. So here, here, and it didn't go all the way over there. So this is the bearing surface. So that's the crush. That's the part we want to measure. Now we come in here and we look at our measuring gauge and whatever thickness that lines up to be. That barely, that's not even the most bottom one, which is 0.76. Over here, maybe that one is 0.76. Maybe. Let me see if I can zoom in a little better so you guys can see it better. All right, so we're looking at just this one little piece here. So you see how the thickness of that green is just barely on the 0.76 mark. Now on the red mark, it unfortunately stayed with here. So it's actually here. So looking on the red one, I'll have to find maybe 0.152. And it's definitely, it's not that big. It looks that. So if it's 0.152 and the tolerances are 0.099, see, oil clearance camshaft maximum 0.099 millimeters, and that's showing 0.152. I don't know. So what I've done is I've measured it. All right, I'm happy with measuring it. So it's been measured. I believe that that's correct. I've torqued it down pretty good. You can see the wear on it. You can really see the wear on it. At 193,000 miles, how much is this supposed to have? I don't know. I would assume if the guy changed the oil religiously every 3,000 miles, it would be spotless. Or if he never changed the oil, maybe it's a lot worse than this. But nonetheless, this is worn. But this is a Lexus, and Lexus should be getting, 500,000 to 1 million miles, let alone barely 200,000. So, is this the problem? I do not know. But I want it on record that I've measured the plastic gauge, and that's showing bigger. I can see the damage. And then when I get the new piece, you'll see how much nicer this looks. This is supposed to be much bigger, much more round and uniform, which means that this has actually been kind of smushed, and the actual metal pieces from here, this metal is being brought into here to fill up this hole. But that's bad. So it is what it is. Now, on here, obviously these marks should not be here, these lines here. But I cannot catch a fingernail on them. So I'm gonna go with, I've got no choice to go with those are good. If they are damaged, well, c'est la vie. I could always get a new camshaft, but I think that they are good. So I'm going to just go ahead and, when this new cam cap comes, do the exact same thing. Put all this, take all this out, do the crush again, and I like the red one better. The red one I think is showing it better. I think the green one, we're so far off the range that it's not even showing. So the red one's more accurate. And again, here's a piece of the green here, right on top. And to try to measure that. It's 0.76 is still too big. So the thinner it is, the more clearance it has, because it hasn't been crushed. If it's a tighter clearance, it'll get crushed more. So the thinner the clearance, the thinner the line, the thinner this actual line is, the bigger the gap is. So like in the middle here, you see this here is super thin, whereas this is thicker than this because this was not compressed. It was sitting inside this oil journal here. Whereas this one here and this one here and over here are all crushed, which make it thicker. The tighter the tolerance, the thicker it will be. So I think this might, if not be the problem, it might be a problem. Time will tell. I should be getting the parts today. I'll check back with you then. Oh, and before I go, I forgot to mention that the this is now the piece here is the camshaft position sensor, the second half that's broke out. So while waiting for my part, I can try to get this part out here. So yay, the fun never stops. All right, while we're still waiting for the camshaft cap to come, I pulled out the camshaft position sensor that broke. Remember, I was saying that there was oil, you can see the oil in there, was leaking into there. So I went to pull it out, it broke, so this is the part that's stuck in here. And look at how nasty this stuff is. Now, this really doesn't bother me much. This is kind of disgusting and all, but it's not gonna do the performance. What it does is the cam has a graduated lobe. See here, you see the steps? So it's a step, and then a step, and then same with here. So every time this passes across that, it creates an electromagnetic field to this part here, which of course is supposed to be connected to here, and sends the electrical signal off. So it does that, but this was the interesting part. I don't know how much is on camera as this is coming up, but look at how concave this is. It's smashed. This is all pushed in right here. Now, is that the way it's supposed to be? I don't think so. That's like bent metal. Look at that, how it's got a lip there, and you can see how it's grinding across here. So, all of that right there, see how it's magnetic? You see how this line is all right here? See if I can do a better job here. There we go. So you can see how it's coming across here and here. And it's got this lip. Is this the problem? I don't know. Again, it's, as I keep saying, it may not be the problem, but it is definitely a problem. Now, I bought both of these, and they both should be here today. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the other one out, since I've got nothing better to do until the parts arrive. And hope and pray I don't break the other one off in there as well. But if not, it's not that hard to take the valve cover off and pull it out. I need to take the valve cover off anyways to test and see if this is the problem with the with this guy. So more interesting stuff. It's so wild. The more you dig, the more you find crap. And again, like I said before, change your oil, folks. This is the reasons why. Or go ahead and just throw away $30,000, $40,000, $60,000 cars because you want to save 20 bucks to change oil. Your choice. If this guy would have changed oil, this car would be running perfectly, and I would never have received this car. So, yeah, I'll pay 500 bucks for somebody to do this. Now, the problem is, this is my fault. I'm putting a lot of money into this car. Yes, it's going to be a really nice car when it's done. But I'm putting a lot of money in this car. But what do you count for restoration of a car? Do you count buying new stuff of this and new stuff of this? Yes. Well, what about the title and the taxes and the insurance? Do you count that as part of the restoration? What about tires? I mean, that's just a wear item. Brakes, you know, any kind of car you're going to buy to not restore, but just to use, you're going to need tires. I mean, if that's the case, then why don't we just count gasoline? So what the actual cost is to restore this, I don't know. But I paid $500 for this entire thing with all these problems, but yet I paid $1,200 for those 4 tires. Yes, they are the top of the line. I could have gone super cheap. We all know that. But that little patch on the ground right there where that tire meets the ground, those 4 patches on the 4 tires are the only things putting this car on the ground. And it's the only thing keeping you in control. And to go cheap tires and not have as much control, or go better tires to have better control, my life, my safety, my family's safety, and their lives are much more important to me than a couple extra dollars saved on the tires. These tires might stop 60 to 0 and 2 feet shorter than the other ones that cost half as much. But you know what? That 2 feet might be the difference between rear-ending the guy in front of me or not. And so all of a sudden, is that $400 or $500 that you spent extra for these better tires, is that worth it? Only you can answer that question. And I get it, some people can't afford it, but I can't either. But I can't afford to get sued or to destroy the car or medical or insurance issues either. So pick your poison. One way or the other, they're going to get you. All right, back off the soap opera box and back on to removing the rest of this, the other camshaft position sensor, to see what we find there. All right, I got them out, the second one out. So this is the right bank. See how it's nice and smooth and still magnetic. Yes, I had to break it to get it out. Don't care. And see how this is all jammed up and all horrible. That would be so freaking funny if this was my entire problem. And all I had to do is change this one stupid thing instead of all this work I did. Well, time will tell. And I quickly ran it through a cleaning process to show you. That's flat, beautiful, that's the way it's supposed to be. That is just mangled. So I don't know. My other question is the only way for that to get mangled is it was pushed in further, and then the actual camshaft itself was pushing in on it. But how? Unless this started breaking and started sucking that in, which I don't think that's the case, but hey, with this car, you never know. So, in any case, I'm glad I ordered these. They should be here today. Put them in. I did get the right one out without having to take the valve cover off, so that's good. So, when the parts arrive, I'm going to put both of these new guys in. I'm going to put just the left side one in here, do the plastic gauge test. If the plastic gauge comes up and shows the exact same numbers, I might just put this one back in because it's worn into the exact same position as the cam. So, you know, a mated pair kind of thing. So I don't know if I'm gonna switch them or not, but I'll figure that out once I get the new one in, put it back together and see what happens. I think I'm getting close to fixing this thing. Well, look what finally showed up. So I got myself the new bearing cap and then the old one. And as I was talking about earlier, you can really see the difference in what's going on here, how nice and pretty this is, how this is a very defined cutout. All of these look really good. And then this one here, look at how gnarly that is. So I believe this is a problem, and it's probably allowing the oil to leak out. So it's not allowing the pressurization to happen enough, not enough pressurization of the oil to actually activate the VVT solenoid, not solenoid, but the actuator, the thing that's inside of here. So I got my parts. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the plastic gauge on this, put it back in, and torque it down, pull it back out, and see what those readings are, and see if this if the difference is significant or not. Stand by. All right, so the new one is in. It's in. I put the 4 bolts in. I didn't do the other 2. I'll probably do the other 2 just in a second here. But it is in. There is no gap. So it's tight on there. So now we just need to see if, pull it back off and see if the the plastic gauges are showing anything. All right, I did the plastic gauge and the results are not encouraging. Not encouraging at all. So I put the plastic gauge on the actual cam shaft. And so obviously you can see it's now stuck to the cam cap. So it did do something. So it is kind of stuck on there. So it did crush a little bit. However, when I go to measure, I mean, that's not even 0.076. And whatever I told you before was 152 or whatever on the red one. It's still 0.152. Still out of tolerance. So I'm very disappointed. I was hoping that this would be the solution to the problem, but I don't think it's going to be. Regardless, I'm going to put the newer one on. Obviously that's much better condition than that. I'll put it on and hope for the best. Now, mind you, I did put this on 3 times, and I torqued the bolts down the proper spec 3 times and pulled it off, and hardly any crush. So it's not like I did it once wrong and it didn't work. Furthermore, there are here and here are the guide pins, here and down there. Here. There are guide pins in here. So I made double sure that this was seated properly and used a rubber mallet to tap it down and made sure there was no gap and it was sitting flush, and it still came up with these numbers. So I believe that this surface was definitely making 100% contact with the surface of the actual head. And then of course I torqued it down properly 3 times, and I still come up with the same readings 3 times. So if that is indeed the case, where we're still sloppy, either one, the bottom side of this aluminum part of the head is also all worn out, and I'll have to review some of my older videos to see if that's the case, or 2, this hardened steel is worn. This is hardened steel, this is aluminum, this is sacrificial, this is not. So I don't believe that this is damaged. I mean, you can see the scratches, the scoring here, but there's no, you can't catch it with a finger or anything. So if it's down in here, that means a whole new head. I don't know if I want to go that far in this car. All right, continuing. All right, I've got the cam cap on. It's bolted down, it's torqued, everything. Now folks, again, learn from me. I torqued that all down, put it all in, got it all going, and then I forgot to put the filter in. I reminded myself 10 times over, put the filter in, put the filter in, put the filter in. And I forgot, so I had to take it all apart again and put it back together again. So, learn from me folks, put the filter in. So, cap's in, solenoid's in, timing belt's bolted back together here. So now all I have to do is put the cover back on up here, and then the valve cover, and then hook all the wires back up and start it up and cross my fingers. All right, let's see what we've got. All right, it's all back together again, and again. So I'm gonna start it up and see what happens. Anyone's guess, it could blow up because it's not the right cap. It could fix the problem completely. It could be somewhere in between. I'm guessing it's not gonna work. There was too much tolerance in there, so I don't think it's gonna work. But I'll set it up on the tripod here and record the start and see what happens. All right, here goes nothing. Sounds like it's running okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it off. All right, so I'm going to, either there's a lot of crap or an immediate oil leak, one of the two. I'm going to hopefully it's just crap burning off. I'm going to set up my voltage thingy again and check to make sure that the solenoid engages when it's cold and then engages again when the engine's hot. So I don't know where this leaks, or not leak, but the smoke is coming from. I don't see puddles of oil anywhere, so maybe just crap burning off. I'll keep an eye on that. Let me set up my meter. Alrighty, meter's set up. Engine is off, so you can hear the solenoid tap, tap, tap. So that is working directly from my power supply. So now I'm going to start it up while it's cold and make sure that bogs down like always. It's working properly. Yes. Okay, so it is working properly from that point of view. So now what I'm going to do is just finish putting a few things back together on it and then check it again when the engine is warm. Well, I hope this video is going to be showing you that things worked or didn't work, but I can't even get that far. So, you know, the smoke that was pouring out? Yeah, something didn't go right with the valve cover. Look at all that oil. Freaking mess. I am so pressed for time. I just don't have the time to deal with this. And I'm so behind the gun on this, trying to get it done. It's getting frustrating, and that's kind of like where you got to be like, okay, fine, done, walk away. So while I'm not going to walk away right now, I am going to take it back apart, at least the valve cover gasket off, just to see what's going on, and then I think I'm going to walk away and then check back with you guys later. For you it'll be 3 seconds, for me it'll be 3 days. All right, after redoing the valve cover gasket twice, it keeps dropping. I got that taken care of, so the leak has stopped. The engine is running smooth, but when I come in here to do this, no change. No change in the once the engine's warm. So to me that means it's not working. All that work I did, all that everything. So let's recap here, shall we? It's not the solenoid. It's not the cap. It's not the VVT, because we switched VVTs. This is actually VVT on bank 2. It's on from bank 2. This is bank 1 is over there. Bank 2 is over here. So it's not the VVT actuator itself. It's not the cap. It's not the OCV. I directly connect everything to it. So it can't be the car, any of the electricals for the car, because I'm bypassing everything and going directly to it and engaging it. And it's not working. It's just not working. So that's with the power off and power on. I am completely stumped. I have no freaking clue. The only thing I can think of is going back to oil pressure. And one little small clue that I had was when I took the VVT 1 and 2 off to switch them, and it was just after running it, kind of like now. It was cool enough to handle, but it was still pretty warm. When I pulled VVT 2 off, there's a lot of oil that came out of it. When I pulled VVT 1 out, there was not as much oil. So kind of thinking, well, maybe it's not getting oil pressure, and that's why I thought it was the cap, because the pressure was going somewhere else. Wow. I have not had a stumping issue like this in a long time. Alright. C'est la vie. The only thing I can say now is just go back to the drawing board and try to figure out what the heck. Alright, I am not happy with this at all. It doesn't seem right. Tuck, 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 tuck. I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be, if that's what this new thing is doing, that I don't know. And then this valve is just chattering like mad still. I don't know why it's doing that. If that's supposed to be the way or not, I don't know. However, I have tested it numerous times and turned off the engine, started it back up again numerous times, and I am not, N-O-T, not getting that P1349 code. I'm not going to jump for joy quite yet. I want to take it for a test drive and see how that works. Unfortunately, I've run out of time for today, so I'm not going to be able to test drive it. But the code is not back as of yet, and I'm not even slightly excited about it. It doesn't seem to be a fix for me. But if it is a fix, great. If it's not, that's kind of what I expected. So, either way, I like that I've replaced this. I'm going to replace the other one. The new O-rings I got for the actual VVT actuators are too small and they're slightly leaking oil. I got new ones coming. They should be in a couple days. So I'm going to pull this off, all this off again, when the new O-rings come in. So I'll replace the O-rings and I'll replace that cam cap at the same time. And then I've got to do more research to find out why this thing here keeps ticking away. Is that supposed to be that way? I don't know. I have taken it out. I've cleaned it. It is pretty new. It looks new at least. And there's no engine problems. I'm not getting a code. I'm not getting any rough idle. It's just annoying. And again, if it's supposed to be that way, so be it. But if it's not, then I need to take care of it. So, for now, no code, and it's warmed up But again, I'm not being able to make the VVT solenoid, when I actuate it manually, to make it bog down. So I'm not sure about that, but if it doesn't have to do that, then fine. All right, I will check back here and maybe tomorrow, maybe next few days, to check and see what the test drive does. All right, back again, once again. So, went on my test drive with the new #1 bearing cap. And like I said before, the tolerances, the clearance using the plastic gauge showed no appreciable difference between the old worn one and this new one. Nor was I able to actually generate a working OCV. It would work, but it wouldn't activate this. Or I should say it activated it, but it didn't. It allowed the oil to do its thing, flowing in or out, but it didn't actually move to change the timing. So, in a nutshell, what I did to replace all that did not work. We are back 100% to square one from way back when. Now, most of the times when I have an issue with a car, I will look back and see, what did I just do? As an example, if I get a code for this, and a week ago I just put it in, I would go right back to this. And sure enough, this, I didn't hook it up or put it backwards or something. Or replacing anything, that's what I usually go back to. In this particular case, yes, I took the cams out to replace the cam gear seal. But I then put 2,000 miles on the car. So I don't see where, if I did something wrong, put it inside out, backwards, forgot to hook it up, whatever, I don't see where 2,000 miles later I would get the code. So I'm not sure exactly why I'm getting this code, as far as did I do something. I don't know. But I refuse to give up on this. I really want to fix this, and now it's becoming more of a, I want to know what's wrong, and I will refuse to quit on this. So what I'm planning on doing is finishing this video right here and then publishing all these videos up to now, and then I'm going to start a whole nother video series of just tearing this completely apart again. Now, something that's worth noting is, yes, I did get the P1349 again after replacing this cap, but it took a lot longer. I started the car, let it warm up, I did this, I did that, I drove it, I got onto it, got it up above 4,000 RPM a couple times to trigger that, all bunch of stuff. 3 or 4 or 5 times, so I'm like, it's not coming back. I'm kind of happy here. But eventually it did come back. So one of the things I'm looking at doing is possibly pulling that camshaft back out again, because if the, where is that? It's not here. If the top cap bearing surface is completely worn out, wouldn't it stand to reason that the bottom part of that surface is also completely worn out? And that's not replaceable, that's the entire head. So, I don't want to go buy a whole nother head. But that we'll figure that out later. Now, something that I was watching a video on, which was interesting, and I'll have to figure it out. But when this is at idle, when the car's at idle, lower RPMs, this is not being energized. So the solenoid is not being energized, which, according to what this guy was saying on the internet, allows the oil to go in and the actual VVT to be actuated, which puts this car in the most advanced timing. And cars at lower RPM like the advanced timing. You get more performance out of an advanced timing at lower speeds. So this is actually, supposedly, according to what he was saying, I need to verify this, that this is actually being actuated at lower speeds. So this is not, no electricity here, and the oil comes and naturally flows into here and pressurizes this. At the higher RPMs, this activates, gets the electrical signal, which moves this, which diverts the oil away from here and back into here, which allows the spring to stretch back out and go into a more retarded setting, which is better for higher RPMs. So if that's the case, I'm getting oil pressure to do its thing. But it does start to run. When I get this code, it starts to run rough. So maybe I still have an oil pressure problem, either oil volume and oil supply and oil pressure, or a lack of the ability to oil to go somewhere. I don't know. But I've got nothing right now. I'm literally grasping at straws as to what this problem is. But I'm not going to give up yet. So I just wanted to pass that along. So next video is going to be with this whole car disassembled again, which is going to afford me the time to replace the #1 cap on this side as well, which I'm going to measure the old cap and see if that is different from this cap. And then put the new cap on this side and again measure the distance and see if this still works. This side works. This VVT is actually from here. That VVT is from there. So I swapped them. The problem stayed on that side. So it's not the VVTs. It's not the solenoids, because I put new solenoids in. All right, so that's where we're at, and we'll figure it out. But if the clearances of this side that works are better than the clearances on this side, and then a new cap doesn't, brings it even tighter clearances or whatever, then maybe it is the actual head itself. The aluminum head's worn down too much where the pressure's blowing by. Don't know. We'll figure it out. All right, got everything all torn apart. Getting ready to pull the camshaft out now. So everything is set. I had to rotate this a full 180 degrees because of this lock nut. I had to put this lock nut in so I don't lose the split gearing there. So this is out 180 degrees, so that is supposed to be actually on the bottom. And I turned it this way. I was looking forward, I turned it clockwise, so this way. So I did verify that the 2 dots are lined up on this side. So when I put it back together, I got to put the 2 dots together here. Then I have to rotate it back 180 degrees. Worthy to note that using the wrench, it is extremely hard to turn the inside of the gear for the actual VVT. I thought it should be moving a little bit better than that. So I'm going to take it out of the car now, put it on the vise, and then try to rotate it and see how it feels there. All right, I have the cam off, and the bottom bearings are looking pretty bad. I was so afraid of this. This might need a new head. That's not good. Crap. All right, well, I'm going to continue. I'm not convinced it's this, but that's not good. You can't really see anything down in here. All right, well, that is not good. that's not good. See, why can't they make these like they do on the, just have the bearings replaceable. All right, we've got more information and we'll just go from there. All right, I'm trying to turn the VVT, and going down, it's stiff, but going up, it's much stiffer. And you can hear it inside there. So that can't be right. So maybe it is still inside here, even though that cam bearing is worn out. So I'll pull it off again, and keep checking it and see if I can find something.